Okay, good evening. This is Thursday, September 11th, 2025. This is the Mendon Conservation Commission. I will now call the meeting to order. My name is Carl Hummel. I am the chair, hopefully for not much longer. We'll now take a roll call.
More. Bob Sweet.
Susan Cahalan. Leah Whiting.
Mike Mandela.
Isabella Genova, the agent.
Peter Coffin should be rolling in the next 10 minutes or so. He's got a tight schedule between finishing up what he does in the evening before he can get here. That's why we meet at 7 o'clock instead of at 6:30 or 6.
That's why we're here until 10 o'clock at night. I'm a night owl.
9:30, 10 o'clock, whatever. So I will give him the same courtesy we did last week. We'll wait definitely at least until 7:30 before doing the reorganization part of the meeting. So given that, we can move on to the first public hearing, request for determination of applicability for 39 Taft Avenue, MEN 25006. So come on up. You can sit next to the little donut thing there. Yep, that's what the speaker should be catching what you're saying on the microphone.
Okay.
The meeting is being recorded and will end up on the YouTube website. However, since all members currently are here, we need to do roll calls. Isabella?
This is a request for determination of applicability. The property owner wants to remove the existing lawn and crabgrass and apply loam and hydroseed the new lawn. This is occurring within 100 feet of Lake Nipmuc. Mostly it is pre-existing lawn, overgrown lawn, not so much wetland vegetation or anything. They also at the same time want to repair and slightly expand the deck that will extend 10 feet closer towards the shoreline and be about 30 feet from the shoreline now. Also included is to close the open order conditions for 39 Taft with a certificate of compliance. That was for the septic replacement in 2022.
What's been done also together?
Okay, so this is someplace we took a site walk for. Is somebody who was at the site walk want to comment on what they saw and how it applies?
Sure, I've got a couple of questions. Isabella, will DEP see this or will they have already seen this?
They saw it. They didn't have any comments.
Okay.
Oh, so it has a number already.
It's an RDA, so it doesn't get
Oh,
a
right.
number, but if they do have comments, they'll provide the comments.
I think my only comment is just I worry about bigger machinery in there, just because they're close to the lake. But yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but they have little machines that you can push that cut sod and take sod out.
I mean, the only thing we're gonna have back there is it's a bobcat.
I have a question. You're not planning on blasting that bedrock that we saw out? are you?
No. That rocks, the one he mentioned, that's gonna stay right there, because that's the level of the thing.
Yeah.
All we're gonna do is put one and then
Right.
I just see the thing. We're not removing any rocks at all.
Will you be doing this in phases? So you're not leaving anything exposed for too long, like?
No, it's I mean, as long as the weather stays the way it is, it'll be done no matter what. I mean, that depends on the weather though. I mean, hopefully the weather will be okay.
For the porch, since you're gonna be moving it out 10 feet, you're gonna have to be installing probably new footings and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
So there's gonna be there. I don't know how far those have to go down into the soil, but
I don't think it'll be that much into it though. Probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet. I wouldn't guess more than that.
3-foot diameter.
Yeah.
4 feet deep, put your sonotube in there and then put your deck post on it.
Correct.
in DEP seen them, do we have a drawing for the porch and stuff like that?
Yes.
I didn't see
Not the
that.
plan.
I'm not sure.
Oh,
Could I ask,
Go for it.
through the chair, of course,
I'm at least informal. The new chair may be more strict. And
you're still there. I was a little confused about what you meant by repairing the existing deck and extending, is that simply the top portion of the boards, or are you doing more extensive repairs of the deck?
No, it's just, we're just gonna extend the deck a little bit and just repair the thing, that's it.
But what does the repair of the existing deck
Are
consist
you
of?
replacing stringers and the framing?
No, we're not replacing I mean, we're gonna add frame to it because we're gonna extend. And the rail, we're gonna remove the rail, put the new ones in. Yeah,
So it sounds like they're adding to the box size and then putting new decking on it with railings.
Just new decking on, replacing the decking rather than the pilings that are there already.
Well, they'll need to add more because they're.
No, I understand. That's the extension. I'm asking about the existing deck.
Right.
yeah, we have to remove, the rails because, it's not gonna, because we're extending the deck. So yeah, there'll be new rails on the thing. And then on the frame, I mean, we have to add, the frame to it and then the boards on top of it.
My question for the commissioners who are on the sidewalk. There is a existing silt fence and sock. The vinyl is actually higher than I've seen at other sites. Are you confident that that is in place and will serve to be a good limit of work and prevent disturbances while any of the other work on the porch or the septic system, will that prevent runoff? Do you have any questions about that?
I didn't see anything falling over or indented, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, by the way, that guy that you were mentioning, he's only there in the summertime. Like, he's not there every day though. The one with the fence. He doesn't live there.
The only question I have is, we have a 25-foot no disturb zone.
Where is that?
I'm assuming that we're encroaching upon that where that silt fence is.
Yeah, the fence is about 3 feet away from.
Yeah.
high water.
Yes, yes.
Are we gonna invoke the 25-foot no disturb, or are we not?
Well, the whole point about Lake Nipmuc is people are on beach property and the lots are small, but we do have to balance out the Mendon bylaw with what the level of hardship would be. And definitely we want to allow someone to repair their lot. Repair their porch, because otherwise.
Right, the porch isn't an issue. It's like I said, it's going to be, they're stripping all of the material off all the way to basically 3 feet away from the lake. And then they're gonna bring more material in and add it. So now you're gonna have 5,000, 6,000 square feet of space with loom only, hydroseed in what's gonna be the rainy season.
And it goes downhill.
So again,
There was a gradient.
just a question is, are we gonna enforce the 25-foot no disturb zone or not? Because that's important to you.
Did DEP have any comments on that, Isabella?
They don't enforce our bylaw.
No, but in their comments.
They have
DEP
comments.
makes comments about the actual wetlands itself. They don't have comments about buffer zoning. Because that's Mendon bylaw specific.
Right, but sometimes they give us 4 paragraphs and it's enough to go on, and it's not safe to do that.
Well, this drawing shows a 50-foot buffer ending at some high water mark. Is that where the silt fence is now?
Silt fence is 4 feet off the shore.
Well, I mean, I'm compared to this plan because it doesn't show it on the plan. You just see a 50-foot buffer, high water mark. That's it.
No, the septic plan is the as-built.
Yes, I know, yeah.
That's not the current erosion control line.
It's on the side of the house. It's not in the-
Oh, I know. Okay.
You ever find out what the four covers are for?
No, I can't ask the RKN because actually Shea Engineering is the one that designed that though.
Fred's Fred's probably not gonna be able to answer them for much longer.
Why? Is he retired?
He's retired.
Because
His
he's the one that designed the thing.
files have been picked up by Allen Engineering, so if you contact them, they have from the CAD drawings.
Yeah, there's 2 tanks it shows here, so there's 2 whole.
I know there's 2 tanks. I don't know if they're tight tank or a regular tank. Yeah, I don't know. Because they
Oh,
installed like
okay.
3 years ago, 2 years ago. I don't know.
Like, do you have an
They're
opinion?
observation points.
I don't have a problem with what he wants to do. He's gonna hydroseed it. We're going into everybody's correct, we're coming up to a rainy season, so that's perfect for growing grass. If he gets it done
I mean,
in a couple of weeks.
my thing is to get it done within the next few weeks. The hydro seeding. Like the guys, he's been waiting. He wanted to start it tomorrow. And I called him today after I spoke to you guys. I'm like, no, I gotta wait for the permit if they allow us to do the work. You can't do it without the permit because I don't want any issues.
So, Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion to waive the 25-foot no disturb zone?
Not for an RDA, no. It's not, it's a different permit. We can talk about doing that in the future, but I don't want to try jumping in the middle of what, the paperwork that Isabella's already prepared for it.
What's a 25-foot zone anyway?
The Mendon bylaw gives us the Conservation Commission jurisdiction within 100 feet of the wetlands area. It's called the buffer zone at the border and something or other. And the Mendon bylaw sets up 3 different categories within that 100 feet. 25 from the wetlands itself to 25 feet out is what we call the no disturb area, where we scrutinize very heavily any activity that someone wants to take a shovel and put it into the ground, and they have to come up with a really good explanation for it. In your case, the explanation is it's on the lake. So because of the lot size and the fact that people have been working in there for a long time, all we want to do is make sure that when you're digging into that ground, it doesn't spill into the lake itself. Between 25 and 50 feet, we have what we call the no build zone, which says that we don't want buildings or structures in there. You can, if you have a good reason, you can explain why you want to go and dig in that area, like you're digging a trench or something, but we don't want structures in there. And then 50 to 100 feet, you have to come up with a good reason for why you want to build a structure there, usually because in Mendon, with our 3-acre lot size, you need to fit in both a septic system and a well, and trying to fit both of those in on a tight, in a very complex situation. Sometimes you have to cheat the house or a driveway so that it's actually within the 50 to 100. So because you're on the lake itself and you've got a much smaller parcel compared to the usual 3-acre zoning, that's why we're looking and saying, yes, we're giving you permission to do stuff within 25 feet, 50 feet. But people in other parts of the town where they have much larger lots, they would have to have a much better justification for when they wanted to do that kind of work.
Got it.
Mike, how'd I do? All right. So are there any other further discussion to take place on this property?
I think my comment is that the vegetation that's on the opposite side of the silt fence should stay because that's on the shoreline. You're also much less likely to have geese come up onto your new lawn if you have that tall barrier because they don't like being hidden.
Yeah, Susan.
That's true. But I think that the direct vegetation on the shoreline must stay, in my opinion.
Okay.
And there's what, a 3-foot drop off there? It probably should stay,
To-
not be graded down to beach land.
All right. Are you comfortable having that written into the?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion for just the COC part of it.
Mr. Chairman, I move to issue a certificate of compliance for 39 Taft Avenue, DEP number 2180782, and I so move.
Is there a second?
1 second.
It's been moved and seconded. What we are voting on at this point is just to close out the certificate of compliance for the work that was done back in 2022 so that we can proceed with paperwork for the rest of the site. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes unanimously. We're now going to move to the determination of applicability. And as we have commented on in the past meeting, and some email guidance, once we close the public hearing, there's no more discussion. We immediately move to the motion to issue the RDA, and then from there, we immediately go to a vote. When we close the public hearing, there is no ability to further discuss. So this is your last chance to ask any questions.
And further discuss among yourselves. You can't allow any
Right.
more public input.
Okay,
Take
great.
the time to.
Glad you're keeping me honest on this one.
Here.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to close.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the determination of applicability.
The public hearing part first.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on closing? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we close the hearing. Next.
Good question.
Yes, what's your question?
What's a positive B?
So the positive 2B in an RDA states that we are not confirming the wetland boundaries. So since it wasn't delineated, you're leaving it not, in an order of conditions, you're approving a wetland boundary.
Okay.
So this says, rather than the 2A says we approve the boundary and then that boundary is valid for 3 years. This doesn't approve the boundary. The -3 is saying that while the work is within the buffer zone, we're finding no impact to the resource area of the lake.
Now, is it different categories for negatives and positives?
Yeah.
Okay,
There's many options in an RDA.
okay, yes, because I'll have another question later.
Okay, so do I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded to issue the determination of applicability, positive 2B and -3 for 39 Taft Avenue. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion passes. And good luck. You'll get your paperwork when
Thank you, guys. Good night.
you get your.
I'll call you on Monday when it's ready.
Give Peter another 10 minutes. No, let's jump ahead and review and approve minutes. So if people had a chance to look at that. Did? So, Peter, next.
I move to accept the minutes for August 28th, 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I understand, I don't have them.
Okay.
I don't have them, so I'm abstaining.
Oh, that's fine. Well, you were here last meeting, so you can vote on whether you get the minutes or the last meeting you're active.
But I don't have them.
Terry, they're in the file.
They might not have been up on the.
Yeah, I figured out everything I got. I have a problem because I don't have an email.
Oh, okay, never mind. That makes sense. Yep, got you.
Ellen was kind enough to send a note to the computer people and I still have not heard. So,
But you have a plaque, at least.
Pardon?
You have a plaque at least.
Don't do any of
You
these.
want to look at the minutes.
That's right. Don't worry about it. I can abstain. So.
Okay, well, we can get the next RDA done in 10 minutes. So we'll do agenda item 6, request for determination of applicability of the 44 Millville Street. That troublemaker Robert Sweet,
Milford.
Milford Street, yes. MEN 25007. Side.
I thought this was fine.
Yeah, this was another site walk. I ducked out to go talk to people at town hall. So any other comments on the stump west?
I saw, yeah, the slope was coming back towards the stumps and not over the hills.
Yeah, it's going towards the street, so. Don't see any reason.
And I know that the power line.
Just careful of the gas lines. And you own the stumps up. Other than that,
I have to notify if they say that. Come on.
Yeah, so Bob is requesting to remove about 7 stumps from the edge of his driveway. Potentially within 100 feet, but seems pretty far, especially, I mean, you can see in the image, the stumps are down on this side. So at least 80 feet, maybe more from approximately where the wetlands are.
When you say remove stumps, are you going to grind them down flat or are you going to pull them out?
No, I'm gonna pull them out because it's easier to get rid of them and not have them rot later.
And you got someone lined up to take them or are you going to have them on
Yeah.
the property?
No, I already got them scheduled to be removed.
Okay. Any further questions?
Nope, I know the site. I don't see a problem. Rip them out of there.
Okay, time for a motion.
I move to close the public hearing for 44 Milford Street, MEN #25-007.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion about closing? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed?
Thank you, members.
We still have to vote.
We just did. I said all in favor.
Oh, I thought that was the closing.
Then we're doing, okay, moving to issue determination with positive 2B and negative 1. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
What's a one?
Negative 1?
That it's likely not in the buffer zone.
No. Okay. 3 is and a 1 isn't. Is there a 2?
Yeah. It's like 1 through 7.
There's 7 of them?
It's on the,
You want to look at the options?
I will at one point.
All right, let's skip ahead to number 9 for notices. So Isabella, National Grid and Utilities.
The first one is a letter from National Grid. They're replacing a pole in buffer zone at 187 Millville Road. Considered exempt, but just so everyone had the opportunity to see the notice. It's in the folder. Expected for summer/fall. And then
This year or next summer?
this year.
Okay.
The second notice was for the Tennessee gas pipeline off of Bates Street. They are replacing a 25-foot section of above ground pipe at the meter station. They're doing it in the next few weeks. They do have a turtle biologist who's going to be on site for the 2 days that work is occurring. Because the area is sensitive. I did at the same time also get a complaint from a resident on Catalpa Lane that trucks were kicking up dust. And that was a nuisance or air quality hazard. It wasn't associated with Tennessee Gas, it was with Algonquin Gas. So they are also with an environmental monitor. They're gonna be watering the access road to reduce dust in that area. But they were very responsive and that was nice. But I think,
I think that's good.
That's
The
okay.
turtles are still out. They
Yeah.
have not removed yet.
but that work is also considered exempt as routine maintenance or repairs.
Good that they're taking all the precautions.
Okay, got another 5 minutes, so. Lake Nipmuc Task Force, another one. Update?
Tuesday, the task of the Lake Nipmuc Association met. They had a good meeting, discussed the weed treatment, and they also brought up an interesting question. When it comes to platforms or floating docks, what's the difference between anchoring and mooring? They brought up an interesting question. Somebody that doesn't have lakefront property is mooring a platform in the water in front of somebody else's house. And they really don't want that. Do they have any recourse? Is there a difference between mooring and anchoring?
Um,
I'm
Under,
talking about ocean, sorry.
under the act, they don't really regulate mooring and anchoring because the land underwater impact is insignificant. So rafts, like the town beach rafts, and if they have a raft with like a slide on it and those kinds of things in the water aren't regulated under the Wetland Protection Act or Chapter 91.
Okay.
Mooring a boat, we don't have any town regulation against it. The specific property in question on Kinsley Lane has access, deed access to the lake down an access road. There's about 4 neighbors on the access road. I spoke with that homeowner and they had different options. They could submit an RDA on someone else's property with the property owner's agreement.
Mhm.
I don't think they have any sort of raft out there right now. They have a mooring.
When we went by there, I went by there this morning and there was nothing out there, so.
Yeah, they had their boat on a mooring that they then paddled out to. And there's nothing in our local regs that limit that. Our lakes and ponds don't discuss mooring.
Is that something that may want to be reviewed by the bylaw review committee?
I don't know if the bylaw review committee comes up with new bylaws. If this board wants to propose a new bylaw, they could. And bring it to annual town meeting.
Well, again, the question is mooring or anchoring. If it's there overnight, is it considered anchoring it or mooring it?
What does the state? How does the state define it?
That's what the answer I'm trying to get is, where is our recourse? What answers can we provide?
Maritime law.
Would maritime law also apply to great ponds?
I would presume so.
Let me put
From
on,
what I could find, you can't moor greater than 100 feet perhaps out, because that would then be potentially hazardous to other boaters.
Right.
So being within shoreline.
It's in a travel path of a pond.
Yeah.
And that, some of the laws I know, you can't interact, you can't interfere with a waterway. But this was a question brought up and I'm trying to get an answer.
okay, the chair will now recognize the General Bylaws Review Committee member who's in the room. Talk about what you were asking. Why, thank you. All right,
Oh, sorry.
so,
I just pulled up the information.
first, the GBRC, gets input and suggestions. First of all, the select board. The select board wants the GBRC to look at something. That's the top of our list. Next up, we're doing a methodical rolling review of every single part of the bylaws and looking at them and saying it's be updated and changed. And thirdly, we accept interested questions from concerned citizens. You can either go as a citizen asking this question or the association, or you can talk and have it as a agenda item at a future meeting should the Conservation Commission ask about that particular. I will say that there is a bylaw concerning the lake. It says things like sailboats have right of way over motorboats and things like that. So there is already a bylaw regarding lake stuff, and it would be something to investigate, and the GBRC would go off and do the research as to whether whatever you're asking, is it appropriate for a bylaw, and if necessary, we would hold a public meeting and get citizen input from not just the Lake Association, but other people in town.
The reason why they brought it up is they brought up a good point. You know, I mean, the lake has access to all the towns. You know, you just have to ask one of the people for permission to use their boat ramp. And then what's to stop you from leaving your boat there all year and live in a different town?
That's not, like I said.
Because then at
Something
that
to
point
research.
brings you to the question of mooring as opposed to anchoring.
I will pass along that I spoke with the chief assessor today. Massachusetts municipalities do have the option to have a boat excise tax. Mendon doesn't because it's more work. It would cost more to bill and collect the $25 a boat than they would actually generate an income. Towns that have much larger lakes that have dedicated marinas do that excise stuff. So we don't have any way of finding out who are putting boats in the water. We don't track that. That's purposes.
The other question that they raised, and it doesn't have anything to do with us, is the concern is when there's weddings at the ballroom and you got the boats that buzz by there and people are yelling and screaming. Well, people are having their wedding. They're looking for any help they can get with that. And I don't think that we have any jurisdiction over that.
The Concom doesn't. That would be something that maybe that we have a police guy, and so just as people can hire an off-duty police officer as a private detail, maybe they go and talk to the police chief and say, can you get an off-duty officer in a boat out there to handle that kind of impolite behavior?
That's a good suggestion, actually, because they're concerned with the speed, the jet skis, you know, the amount of lack of knowledge about the rocks and whatnot in the lake. So it's more safety.
Is the fast travel being done by reefers who want to disturb the actual ceremony, or is it being done by members and guests of the ceremony who are just buzzing around being excited?
No, you don't usually bring a boat to a wedding.
Well, I'm saying,
This is way off topic.
who are the people who are causing the problems?
Well, people on the lake.
Oh, okay, so people in town. All right, well, we now have our seventh member. Could you introduce yourself?
Peter Coffin, sorry, I'm late.
Okay, we just finished the lake update. Do you have any update from the land use committee?
No, we haven't met.
You have the resident from 37 Kinsley on.
Oh, okay, well, we can do the reorganization, and then hopefully a new chair will be able to deal with that particular issue. So we'll now go back to agenda item 4. 2 points I will raise before I hand over the chairship. There was a question as to why I made one of the motions to nominate a person. Since I'm the chair, I don't normally do that. And my response is that the very fact that we are having Isabella take over the meeting for that part is why I felt very comfortable making a motion. It's not like the chair thinks that the following should be happened. I was not the chair at that time, and instead Isabella was running that part of the meeting. The other question is that most times when there is a nomination in an election process, there's a chance for the nominees to do some speechifying, and we skipped over that. And I will agree that because of the short notice we had in having the proposal for how we should run the elections and actually doing it, we didn't have that kind of discussion. My feeling that for tonight is we will start following the same process we did that last week, where we just have straight motions and then votes. However, if we have another failure to elect like we did last time, for the second round, we will have an opportunity for each member on the commission to say why they are in favor of one candidate or if are in favor of the second candidate, and then we'll have another vote.
Okay.
Let me finish. And then my proposal is that if that doesn't resolve anything, we do a third round where this time individual members can speak out why they feel they've expressed why they think someone should be the candidate, why a candidate should be chair. They would be able to say why they feel that a different candidate should not be chair. So we're going to hold off the confrontational stuff until a possible third round. But my goal here is to drive to a conclusion tonight. So yes, you have a question.
This is a very awkward process. I'm so sorry that we all have to go through this awkward process. But last time we had 2 people abstain when we all did our votes. And I feel like if the people that do get nominated for chair had a chance to speak before we took the formal vote, that would at least give the people who abstained a chance to hear our qualifications for why we think we should be chair. So I feel like it's a little backwards to take a vote and then without, especially people who have abstained, and not give the people a chance to say why they feel they should get the vote from the people that have abstained.
Okay, I will poll the members and say, do you feel that before we hold the vote, that the nominee should be allowed to make a stump speech? I want to.
What's the question again?
The process we followed last time and the motion for how we'll be voting this time is we nominate people and then immediately go to votes. What Leah is proposing is to amend that process where we nominate people, the people who have been nominated get to make a stump speech, and then we hold a vote. So I'd like to see if people are for or against that modification. Leah is in favor of it. Bob? Peter.
I am all in favor of a discussion before a vote. And so but I'm actually more concerned with, I don't like a motion on a candidate. In all the elections I've ever participated in, there are candidates. And if there's more than one candidate, you have an election and you vote for one of the two. You don't vote for one, see if they get a majority first, because that forces you to say no to somebody, which I don't really like to do. I understand it can be done differently. I gather maybe this was the way the Board of Health did it, but in all the elections I've ever participated in, there's been a slate and you vote amongst them and you have a discussion. And if you want to get into why you think someone is good, and it shouldn't be stump speeches.
I'm just using that as a.
Yeah, I understand, but those are my feelings.
Okay, so Peter has a different proposal from Leah. If I'd like to hear from members of the commission about how they feel about those 2 options. Yeah.
Can I ask, did the commission at its last meeting close nominations formally?
No.
So this floor is still open for additional nominations theoretically.
We would have another round and we would either go through exactly the same process we did that time. We would go through the process as Leah is suggesting, or we would go through and have the more traditional New England meeting election process that Peter is proposing that we do.
I think we did close the nominations, but I don't know if it all went out the window when we did.
We would be able to reopen them.
I think you have to start from scratch again.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike? How should we do it?
I don't think we should be overcomplicating this.
Okay. Good.
My only suggestion with the format from the Board of Health was that the chair should step down so that it's impartial and they're not in charge of the meeting. Doesn't have to follow nominations or whatever you all want to do, but yeah, I agree. It's taking a long time.
I think it's the right thing to do that you, when you say, okay, we're gonna reorganize, you step down since we have a quite capable
Agent clerk.
agent that she controls that aspect of the meeting for that amount of time until we nominate and vote for a new chairman. And the only discussion that I've remember having, and I've been sat on this board for pretty close to 40 years, I'm proud to say, is when someone gets nominated, you ask them, will you accept the nomination or not? A lot of times, some people don't feel they can do the job and they'll back out, or they'll admit that they don't have the time to do it. But that's it. So let's not overcomplicate it. We're not voting for the president of the United States here.
Okay.
Well, I think that,
That's my opinion.
Well, we need to give Isabella guidance for when I step down and Steve starts chairing, how she should manage the process. We have 3 proposed ways of doing it. Do you have a preference?
Throw the nominations out there and then you vote for them.
Okay, so you're going for the same thing we did last.
Well, no. The way we did last time, we had a motion. 2 people voted one for nominated somebody, then had a vote on that person. And then when that person failed to get a majority, then we went to the next nomination and that person failed to get a majority.
But
I would have-
you make a nomination,
And if there's more than one nominations,
then you take a vote on it. Whoever gets the most votes, if
Right.
you want to do it that way.
that's.
Or if there's no other nominations,
and
you
that's
vote for the
acceptable.
one.
But if there's more than one nomination, I guess is what,
What's Robert's rules of order?
Robert's rules leaves it up to the individual organization that's having the meeting. They do not have a specific way to handle elections. It's subject to the local regulations.
And we don't have any.
No,
I didn't think so, because I don't remember hearing it. So when we get by this, probably the first order of business at our next meeting is to, this commission set up and vote on a policy for reorganization. And that'll,
and I'm trying to get a sense of the commission for how you want to run tonight's election. So Leah, you've expressed your opinion. Susan, do you have a?
yeah, I think, after the people are nominated, they have like a couple, just like limited 2 minutes as to their qualifications, like when we have other candidates.
So that's Peter's suggestion. So you're
Or, just a couple minutes, keep it short,
Bob.
or whatever.
Me personally, I like if a person's nominated and has the majority of the vote, then that person gets the position, should they want to accept it.
Okay, do you think that there should be a 2-minute speech after someone's nominated where they say why they're interested in serving as chair?
I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, the vote from the board itself indicates whether or not there's a confidence level in the person who's being nominated.
Okay, Terry, do you want to have an
I'm
opinion?
abstaining.
You're back in ways.
but do you have a recommendation as to how the vote should be taken? I mean, that doesn't take work.
Well, since I'm abstaining, I have shouldn't be talking to you about it, but I think in terms of Robert's rules, normally the chairman would step down, vice chair would chair the meeting, but in this case, the vice chair was a nominating individual, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So it's going to her, and I don't care, but I would find it helpful if there were some speech making, so to speak, but I don't think that's my call.
Yeah, because it's like anything else. It's like when you have candidates that come forward before, you know, just it could be
Okay.
up to 5 maybe. So-
All right, so.
Mr. Chair, just my major concern is not with the comments or politics, is that there should be a choice between candidates. If there's more than one, you put both up and you vote for one or the other. You don't have one vote and see if that gets the majority. And then the other one, I gather you can do it that way, but I
Okay, so go down the line and each of you say who you're voting for.
Yes. As opposed to 2 rounds, or if there are 3 candidates, 3 rounds. All right, so,
So when do we get to, if somebody gets nominated, then they can talk?
well, that's the next question I'm going to say. I'm going to ask for a poll of, after someone accepts a nomination, should they be granted 2 minutes to speak as to their interest and qualifications?
No,
I have no problem with it, yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
1, 2, 3.
I don't see the need for it.
Okay, so it's 3-2, and we'll have the 2-minute stump speech for
Or maybe up
qualifications.
to 5.
No, let's keep it 2. So are you confident with the opinion of the commission?
Did you vote for yes?
I will vote for allowing a 2-minute sub speech, so that would be a majority of the commission interested in allowing a 2-minute speech. So are you confident with the direction at this point, or should I take some time to write up the modify?
No.
Okay, let's get it over with. All right, so you now get the gavel.
Okay, this portion of the meeting for tonight will be to reorganize the Conservation Commission. At this time, I'll accept nominations for chair.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to nominate Bob Sweet as chairman.
Second,
Madam Chair,
yes,
I'd like to go with my vote last time, Leah Wade,
you nominate.
nominate, I'm sorry.
Is there a second? Oh, can't say that.
But you can't.
Second.
Can I second? Okay. Second.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll give Bob the opportunity to speak about why he wants to be chair first.
Members of the board, I've been involved in conservation pretty much my entire being in Mendon, which is 24 years now. I've watched the meetings, watched how they've been run. I learned more than I ever expected to about conservation. I know a lot of the properties in town have a lot of history with the Mendon itself, and feel that now learning and being a participant of the clerical side of it is a logical step. It gives me a chance to enhance my ability to serve as a town member. Do you need more than that?
You still got,
Minute and 48 seconds?
Yeah.
He sees his time.
I didn't know there was gonna be a speech. But yeah, I mean, that's really where I stand is I care about the wetlands. I care about the fairness and equity towards each and every individual case that comes here. And I feel that I'm ready to step into the position to guide the conservation into the future.
Great, thank you. Leah?
Thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate it. I want to touch on a few of my strengths. Administratively, I've had many years managing businesses.
She.
Bookkeeping.
Yeah. Shh.
I'm happy to do this again, if you like. Okay. Administratively, I've had many years' experience running and managing businesses, bookkeeping, HR. I understand a lot of the administrative things that the chair does and feel confident that I will work very well as a team with Isabella. I feel confident that Isabella and I could hit the ground running from the get-go. And being familiar with the administrative side of things is really a lot of what the chair does. I'm also very comfortable running meetings. I have run many meetings in my work life and have always been able to not only keep meetings focused, but more importantly, make sure that meetings are productive. And I do have a copy of the Robert's Rules, the bylaws, WPA on my desktop. I've gotten comments that I'm passionate about conservation. And Bob, Peter, Mike, we share the same passionate moments, but I have always remained focused and clear-headed, productive on the tasks before us. And I think all of us share that comment, and that's a great enthusiasm to have, because it means that we're passionate and that we care and that we all work hard here to do a good job. Some other strengths I consider myself proficient at is organization and/or reorganization, the ability to oversee and compartmentalize situations, and the ability to think out of the box and problem solve. And having a forward-moving plan, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan Z, is a must in any situation for this commission, especially when we have solutions, when we need solutions for the many challenging things that come before us. Streamlining meetings would be great for us. Wouldn't we all love to get out earlier? I have some solid ideas for streamlining our meetings and ideas for introducing a few protocols that we can use with every applicant that comes in to make sure everything we do is completely fair across the board. And this would also save Isabella a ton of time and us, because we won't be chasing applicants around to answer us. These are simple things that we can do and we can integrate easier. In any job I've had, I've always had to save time, reorganize, and I've had a lot of success in making things run more efficiently. I think these skills could help us here. I'm not afraid to ask the tough questions. I can operate in confidence, with confidence in high pressure situations. Worked at Brockton High School for 25 years. That was never a great place to work, but not always an easy place to work. And I am a true conservationist at heart, which is the reason why I applied to be on this board. And I've listened to every applicant that's come in, given my 100% honest vote. And I do understand the nuances between a homeowner and developer. And I do think I've agreed with the board on a lot of issues more than I have disagreed. And we do all have to find common ground in the end, so we can resolve things for our applicants, but also have the bigger picture in mind, is that we were appointed by the select board to represent all of the residents of Mendon. Please remember that our primary purpose here, as the commission, is to protect and manage a municipality's natural resources, inventorying national assets, creating open space plans, promoting regulations, protect ecosystems, and ensuring the sustainable use of resources for our current and future benefit. And we have the Wetland Protection Act as our guideline and law. Since this is the Conservation Commission, knowledge is power. And I'm completely invested in knowing the ins and outs of our ecology, from the biggest creatures down to the isopods and copepods, nematodes, mycelium, and I've spent a lifetime studying that. And I want to help others learn about it. Public outreach and education is a huge part of being on this commission. And the more the public outreach we have, the more we can teach people about conservation, and the easier our job on the Conservation Commission will be. Thank you all for listening. I thank you for any consideration that you give me for this vote. Thank you all.
Thank you. And so with that, we're gonna open it up to vote. We'll do roll call and go down the line. I know Terry, you're abstaining, so Bob.
I vote Bob.
Carl Hummel, I vote Bob.
Susan Cahalan votes, Leah.
I vote Leah.
Peter Cotton votes Bob.
Mike Mandelia votes Bob.
And Terrence Moore abstains.
Okay, congratulations, Bob, and you're in the new chair and you can do this for the vice chair.
Thank you. Members? Ryan, do you proud.
Computer's making a noise.
Now you have to run the nominations for vice chair.
Okay, so here's my gavel.
Places with me.
Fine.
You want the old one or the new one?
I'll go with this one. I have no idea the difference. All right, so, now I'll entertain a motion for nomination of vice chair.
I nominate Susan Cahalan.
Is there a second? Are there any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Carl.
Say motion fails for lack of a second.
Motion fails for lack of a second. A motion has been made to nominate Carl. Any seconds?
I'll second.
You second yourself?
Yes. Leah did.
I asked.
You can vote for yourself,
All right, so motion has been made and seconded. Discussion, you're looking for a 2-minute?
No, I'll just say that I think I'm qualified and I'll act as parliamentarian and tell you things like, you need to ask for a second, as needed in the meetings. So, and the other one is I'd be stepping in when you're unavailable to run meetings.
Susan, do you have anything you'd like to speak on?
Oh, yeah, I would like to retain the position. The only reason I didn't run for the chair was because it wouldn't be fair to everyone else, because I'm gonna be having another major surgery, which would put me out of commission for a month, so that's basically why. Yeah, I would like to continue on. Continue growth. Yeah, my science background speaks for itself. But not so.
I'd
And
like-
plus I'm a moderate, my husband's a developer, not in this town, those are already disclosed anyway, so. I know the boundaries. And whatnot, so.
At this point, I'd like to open the floor to the vote. Mike,
Mike Mandelia, aye.
I what?
Carl.
Susan didn't get seconded.
So there's only one candidate.
There's only one candidate.
Ah,
You can ask for other nominees, but
all right. Is there a second for Susan as vice chair?
We already went through that.
All right, I second myself.
Let's-
Hold on. We already went through that. No
That's
one
what I
second.
thought.
The first one fails for want of a second. Someone else can make a motion and then she can second herself again.
I make a motion to nominate Susan for vice chair.
I'll second myself.
Great, okay. And you already gave your 2-minute speech.
So
we have two candidates.
we have two candidates. I'll take the vote for which candidate you choose. Mike,
I vote for Carl. Mike Mandelia.
Peter votes for Carl.
Leah votes for Susan.
Susan,
I vote for Susan.
Carl, I'll vote for myself.
I'll vote for Carl.
And I'll abstain because the votes are already counted.
Courteously.
I've,
So the motion has been made. The votes have been tallied. The vote is for Carl 4, Susan 2, with 1 abstention. Congratulations.
Yeah, time for us to get new signs.
Well, you can be me. I'll have to be smart. That's that's so good. So, this will organize that.
Bob, you have,
That shows along with
the
it.
residents from 37 Kinsley are on for number 7.
Okay. So at this time, let's go to item agenda number
Right.
7,
Why does the-
37 Kingsley Lane. DEP number 2180868, enforcement order issued 8/18/2025. Review placement of unauthorized beach stand in violation of the permit.
So I wanted to keep the topic on the agenda because the commission had gone out on site last week. The intention is still to file the amendment and be on the agenda with a public hearing for September 25th. But I wanted to make sure commission had the opportunity, if they want anything drawn in the plan for the amendment or any other information that they may not have felt they've seen yet, that they can tell the property owners now. I don't know if there are any comments after the site visit from last week.
Well, I have a solution for them that might help. And, they were very concerned about the bricks that were there, because they have small children. And then they put the 6 inches of sand down. I think something that would work to satisfy both of what we're looking for and what they're looking for is to simply cover it with some AstroTurf. And that way the sand is encapsulated. And if the children fall, they're not going to be falling on the bricks. Leaving the sand there is very much a detriment and a very sticky situation for all of us, because we're gonna have tons of people coming to us about beach sand. But if they covered it with some AstroTurf, which is not expensive, removing the sand, putting a patio or whatever is expensive. So this, I feel like this is a good compromise for the homeowners, and maybe they don't have to go through all the effort of going to amend their, NOI or whatever they're filling out, RDA. Well, they already have one open, so, they would have to.
Amend it for the dock. Amend the dock one for the stand.
Right. So I think that might satisfy the problem if we were able, if they were able to do that, which is not very hard to do.
If I may, so this is Jeannie. So part of the issue is that the patio pavers are incredibly uneven. There are some that are missing and some that are disintegrating. So it's not, unfortunately, a simple solution. We did look at that actually, when we were looking at kind of the little seating area where we have the table and chairs. We thought about, doing something Astro there, but again, because it's uneven, we didn't want to disrupt kind of the ground to try to level it out for AstroTurf. So unfortunately, that was not a plausible solution. I think if, as you guys had gone out there, that you see that it is a recessed patio. And by definition, it really does meet all of the requirements of what constitutes as a sandbox. It's just a very large one.
Can I just, I'm not sure if you understood what I was talking about. So, I've done a lot of this in my goings back and forth and stuff that I've done in my own life. And it's very easy we can leave the sand there. You can tamp the sand down. It's a perfect base for putting anything on top.
All right, so,
Oh,
Excuse me.
you're saying keep the sand and put something right over it. Okay, okay.
It's not our responsibility to tell you how to fix the problem. It's
No,
our
I'm trying to-
responsibility to make sure that the wetlands are protected and that you follow the order that it takes to protect them. So it's really not upon us to say whether the bricks are even or uneven, whether you need to step them down or not, add AstroTurf or not. You need a notice of intent if you're working within 100 feet of the wetlands, and you need to come up with a plan that shows what you're gonna do. And at this point, with the enforcement order, that's what we're looking for, a plan to show what you're gonna do and how you're gonna keep the dirt or any sedimentation from going into the wetlands.
Okay.
So regardless of whether the bricks are even, uneven, there or not, it's really irrelevant.
The enforcement order required filing an amendment, so we're not asking for a new NOI, because in the enforcement order is a direction to file an amendment. So unless you're gonna back off of that, but that was what was voted on.
Amendment to the dock.
Yeah. To the dock permit.
And I'm just trying to give them suggestions on things that would be easy for them to do to solve the problem. And I'm not saying go to Home Depot and buy.
Well, she wasn't telling us.
I'm just coming up with a solution that would be easy for all of us. You guys are homeowners. It's not like you're developers. You don't have time to be trucking sand out of there. I'm just giving you a solution that would be a lot easier than
No,
going
and I
through all.
understand. I understand, and that does sound like a good plan. If it needs to be, self-contained and then also covered, then we can definitely do that if that's a solution here. We definitely don't want to step on your toes anymore or do any other projects or anything without you guys involved. So it's duly noted that, from here on out, we'll be working with you and we can definitely do the AstroTurf. I don't think that'll be a problem if that's what you guys need.
So
They're gonna present a plan to us.
and that's where I'm at too, is I'm looking for something, some kind of
I'm interested in what
of
they,
what you're doing. And how you're gonna
what do
fix
you
the problem.
want? What do you want to do there? Present it to us.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, like I had said in, I think it was 2 meetings ago, we don't have the money for the patio yet, so that's obviously not our finalized plan because we can't do that yet, but I think we would probably go with that AstroTurf and look into that and do that. Because that is a cheaper solution for now that makes both parties happy, so I believe that's something that we're gonna look into and do. Like, yeah.
So are you gonna be able to get a plan and submit it so that we have something to look at, something to put in a file, so.
Yep. I
Down the road.
I can absolutely do that. I'm actually just traveling for work, doing solar in Missouri, and I'm back this weekend. So as soon as I'm back this weekend, I can get right on that, and at the next meeting, I'll have a plan written up and, get that done for you guys.
Could I, Mr. Chairman, I had an opportunity to be on the site with a number of the members, and I also had an opportunity to review the August 14th meeting of which this was a subject. The commission at that point in time said you can keep the sand as long as you get a plan to us quickly.
Correct, and with silk fence, I believe, or some kind of siltation control.
And I guess the question I would have is there a time limit under which that agreement will cease? Do they have until next meeting to get the plan in, or do they have until 2 months from now to get the plan in? I think at some point in time, you need to specify that your gracious accommodation by leaving the sand has a time limit attached to it.
Right, and that's.
I spoke with them this morning. They're gonna come in on Monday to file the amendment, which is in time for the 25th meeting, September 25th.
And if they don't?
So John, if you're coming in Monday, to over the amendment, would
Yep.
you have to get that plan?
I can get that done. Yes, sir.
Put paperwork with the project so that in the future, if something isn't or is different, we have something to go back on to say, well, this is what we agreed on.
Okay. That sounds more than fair.
Mr. Chairman, I would like him to take his time and put some thought into it and not come up with a half-baked idea. Let him do some research and find out what the best solution is to fix the problem. So that he doesn't have to go through this again next season or whatnot.
So are you suggesting the September 25th meeting, come in with a plan and.
What I'm suggesting is to have this gentleman tell us what his timeline is so that we can agree to it. Again, I don't want to push him into a corner and he makes a bad decision. This should be a one-time decision. Obviously, he knows he made a mistake. Sounds like he's willing to work to remedy it. Let's remedy it so it's fixed once and for all. So give him some time, Mr. Chair.
Chair, I have a question. Isabella, can you clarify by what date they need to have the paperwork in your hand in order to have this treated at the next meeting?
I had talked with the property owner this morning and they were planning to come in by 4:30, but we're only open till 4. So I can accept the plan on Monday still in time for the legal ad and abutter notices.
Does that work for you? 4 o'clock before 4 o'clock on Monday?
Yeah, you know, I can make ends meet with that. I like what Mike had said with a little time, but you know, you guys are the ones giving me the time, if at all.
I also don't think the threat of beach sand moving, there's a pretty high retaining wall there. The straw wattle was put in. It's not.
I make a motion, we wait until September 25th, or the week of September 25th. So whatever that Monday is, to get a plan in, because this is a homeowner. He's not a developer. They have a life. They need time to get their stuff together. And I think making them come in by 4 o'clock on Monday and it's
No,
not.
that's fine. What Mike was suggesting is they give us the time that they need.
So your motion is to give them until the 28th or something, or?
Well, that Monday of the week that the meeting is, Isabella. I don't have my calendar in front of me. I can look.
Are you calling for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Is there a second on that motion?
Are you calling for a motion?
I can make a motion whenever I want to.
I mean, John, is the 25th, can you work with the 25th?
Yes, I can. Absolutely.
There's a motion on the floor.
So then
Is there a second?
my interpretation of that is the plan needs to be submitted by the 25th for then a meeting in October.
It really should be submitted by the 22nd so that we have time before the 25th.
That's not how the public hearing works. You need it.
You need 14 days before the meeting in order to vote on it. That's why
It needs to
Isabella
go
is saying
paper.
it has to
So
be
it
in
can't-
Monday for the meeting.
Okay. Well, let's figure out what date that is.
So push it forward till the first week of October, right? Is that sufficient?
That's gonna screw them guys.
Is it gonna screw them? Then,
If they file it by the 25th, it would be on the October meeting.
There's a
Rather
motion
than-
on the floor to push.
Hasn't been seconded.
I'll second it to give them more time to do their paperwork.
It's not like they're a big developer. This is just a couple of bought a house. That's
So-
what
He's
we-
arguing that.
The motion's been,
Trying to give the gentleman some time to think and come up with a one-time solution. And not have us being pushed with his back up against the wall to make a hasty decision.
Yeah, we,
John, that actually works out good for you. You get a month.
Say that again? Sorry.
You get a month. You get this first 2 weeks and then we'll go to the meeting and then you'll go to the next meeting and you'll need all your paperwork in order.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
So that would be the October one.
Before we vote, I'd like to clarify. The expectation is that in 2 weeks, he provides Isabella with a plan. So he only has 2 weeks to do the think work. And then after the plan has been submitted to the agent, it gets in, the abutter notification is made, but the plan should be finalized by the time it gets into Isabella in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Is that a correct statement?
All right.
So he has to have the plan in before the next meeting.
So that gives you 14 days instead of
14
3
to
days.
do the abutter meeting and have the meeting in October.
That's my motion.
Yep.
sounds good.
So a motion to push this to the September 25th.
I don't think they need to come in again on the 25th though, if they get the plan in.
Right.
You
Been
made the
made and
motion, I'll
seconded.
second it. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For opposed and then ask for abstain.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
You can say passage.
Passes unanimous. Do you,
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the extra time. Thank you.
Luck with it.
All right. All right. You guys have a nice evening. Thanks.
all right, so back to agenda item number 8 for Kingsley Lane. The complaint, construction of patio within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland with intermittent stream. Request for determination for the activity has been submitted for the September 25th agenda and sediment control installed.
Yeah, so this was a complaint. Oops. I lost sorry. A resident originally came in with a complaint about this property. They had a small stockpile on kind of the left-hand side of the property. The new homeowner is a contractor and he had access to some materials that he ended up using to fill potholes on Kingsley Lane. You can see in the, the road is in better condition now. I think the town did some work too. But so some of these repairs on Kingsley Lane were done by them. The location of the stockpile was around here. And I did instruct them to put up silt fence and straw wattle for the stockpile since the intermittent stream is flowing to the side of the property. We talked about what kinds of things need permits. But I didn't feel that an immediate, small stockpile to fix the road that's in really poor condition. I didn't feel like that needed a permit at that time. A couple weeks later, I got another complaint that they were working on a patio in this area, a currently existing lawn fenced in area. It looks like the fence is about 30 feet from the stream. The patio was almost near completion by the time I was there on site, so they're not entirely finished with some touches, but they are stable. They've installed silt fence around the patio area and they've submitted the RDA for the next meeting in September.
Mr. Chair, is someone repairing a private road considered maintenance under the bylaws?
It's a private road and I believe the residents are responsible for the repair.
Right, but if the road at that point is within 100 feet and therefore jurisdictional to the Concom, is filling in potholes considered a maintenance activity that we allow without having them to get a permit?
Would that be?
In my opinion, yes, road maintenance is exempt. I mean,
Whether it's
Maintenance
public or
of-
private, yes, I would agree.
But is there a patio there now that wasn't there?
yes, so that'll be
that's-
the RDA in 2 weeks.
And they already,
Sidewalk and visit this,
they already did the patio?
yes.
What type of patio is it?
It's more of a kind of paver area
Can I ask what the address is?
for Kinsley Lane.
For?
Mr. Chair. The previous instance that we just talked about with the sand and the homeowner saying, well, it's a sandbox. And now we have one with a patio. And I'm sure there's 50 of them out there where homeowners have done work in the buffer and have not gotten an application or a permit. So what is requiring of a permit in the buffer? Are we being hardball, which is saying any alteration of the vegetation and change of drainage should require a notice of intent and a public hearing. That would be the hardball answer.
That's what's in the bylaw.
And it's in the bylaw, but a kind of not a compromise would be, they gotta come for an RDA and then let us judge whether it's of such significance that it requires a
This
full
is an
blown.
RDA. So then if you want an NOI afterwards, you could require that.
Right, but I want the general public to know that they need to do something before they arguably do anything in the buffer. And so we're trying to overcome history and homeowners saying, well, you let him have a deck and stairs that go down and.
May I make a suggestion? I think that when it comes to anyone who we've had complaints about, we want to be as fair as possible. And it's not a good optic for us to let this person do it and not have a protocol. And then let somebody else do it and we let them do it. But then this person had to get an NOI. I think that the way that we should handle things going forward is just to have a protocol. That when we get a complaint or something's been done that does fall in our jurisdiction, not maintenance or anything like that, that we issue an enforcement order, and that's gonna protect.
And that's what we're trying to do now, is this board from the time the last year anyways, that's what we're doing. That's why there's so many enforcement.
Right, but what I'm saying is there should just be a set protocol so that everyone feels like they're getting treated fairly.
And that's what we're doing.
Well, they didn't get an enforcement order.
The result might be different, and that if they come and they put an RDA, that's up to us to decide whether it's of such magnitude that it requires notice of intent. Or no, we can use our judgment and say, yes, it's doing work in the buffer. Yes, it's doing the same thing that somebody else did, but their patio is a little different because of X, Y, and Z. And so if they put up silt fence, they're okay and they don't need a full blown notice of intent.
Here, could we make a decision on this and talk about the larger issue?
Sure.
Because I think the larger issue is
Is
quite
fairness,
important.
fairness for all.
Pardon me?
Fairness for all.
And
That's-
compliance.
That's what I'm trying to get to is with these decisions is it's fairness for all, not each one.
No, I
Can do whatever they
I
want.
understand. I'm just suggesting that we make a decision on this particular application and then discuss the larger issue, which is beaches and other incursions
Patios or
at
whatever.
the lake.
So is there a motion? Is
I
there,
don't think we need a motion. The public hearing for the RDA will be on the 25th. I think on this site, the reason I did not issue an enforcement order is due to the magnitude of the potential violation. A patio is much smaller than a massive bulldozer or bobcat that's excavating material. Laying pavers is a little bit different. It's a lot of time, paperwork, and potential appeals and different scenarios with an enforcement order that you don't have to go through if they are agreeable to submitting a permit. And in this one, we'll schedule the site visit prior to the next meeting and have plans sent out on Monday for everyone to review.
and I agree with you at that point. If they're willing to work with us, they put the silt fence up, they stop the major part of the construction, then gives them the benefit of the doubt. And when they come in, we'll make sure that they have the knowledge that they need and satisfy the requirements of the conservation.
Is that what you're recommending?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except is that fair for the people that we just saw, because we gave them an enforcement order and they came right.
We gave them an enforcement order before they submitted the RDA application. At this point in time, there is no reason to issue an enforcement order for Fort Kinsley Lane because they have already submitted an RDA application.
Any further discussions?
Why is the water not on things? No.
So. then we can move on.
Did you address Peter's comments?
Well, I just threw that out because it's a series of things. And so I was just hoping that, I was really wanting to comment on the previous applicant saying it was a sandbox. And I'm saying, okay, sandbox, you still need, you can't build a sandbox in the buffer, right? Without it's going to be a long educational process. And so I'm not quite sure how best to roll it out.
And that's why I'm trying to work with the Lake Nipmuc Association as well,
Amen.
because they're a good resource. They have the newsletter, they have, meetings and.
We'll talk.
Right. So I'm hoping that with all the outreach between this board and other boards, that we can get the understanding that if there's water near your property, at least give us the opportunity to look at it and give a recommendation.
I think every property is different. The idea of a sandbox that's contained by a retaining wall is a different type of alteration than filling a BBW or bank that is natural and vegetated. And those are considerations that every property is going to be different. What's existing, what's existed prior to the bylaw, prior to the Water Protection Act, and what's been in place for 20 years and might have adverse possession at this point. So everything is different. We can't just say one thing for all properties. It's going to be different
No, but we.
every time we have a scenario.
Guys, did anyone else hear them call it a sandbox except for tonight?
No, tonight was the only night that
Forgive me for being a newcomer and being observant, however. I looked at the August 14th tape. I went off to the site visit and there was the sandbox. Next door to the sandbox was a beach. Next door on the other side of the sandbox was a beach. And from the April 14th discussion, which was very educational, I don't think we have any idea how to deal with beaches. I don't even think we have an idea of how to get people to apply when they have beaches. I looked at the I think it was April 2024 agreement that was reached with you and the Lake Association, and it was a guidance on docks. And it said, if you're gonna do anything on your property that needs a permit, we're gonna look at the dock too. And it also, and I guess my question is because I don't really know the legal status of guidelines. But as I read it, I said, oh, they just grandfathered every existing dock on the lake until somebody comes in and wants to do something on their property. That's just my impression, and I think it's true. I'm wondering why you don't bring up the issue of beaches and treat it the same way with the task force, with the lake group.
we actually do. The beaches, it's chapter 91. There are requirements. It's 50 feet or 10% of your property.
Okay, but that's not my issue. My issue is people aren't applying for beaches, regardless of size. And you're letting beaches slide because you're not taking it. And I understand the former chair made a very important comment, is that we don't have boats to go around and inspect every shoreline of the lake and identify each beach. But it does seem to me that if you are doing something on your property and you have a beach that is not permitted, that is eligible for being permitted, not an exemption. Why doesn't that trigger something when you come in for another application on your property? It's a non-conforming use issue. And to resolve a non-conforming use. And I'm not trying to be draconian. I'm just saying the issue is not so much that people are building illegal beaches, is that they're not coming to you. And then you catch them, and then we get sandboxes.
Mr. Chair, I have a response. in the past 5 or 10 years, every time that I've seen a property on the lake that has come before the Conservation Commission, I have not seen any of them having had beaches, other than this particular one that they filled it in after the fact. That is a reflection of, first, there are not that many beaches, and more a reflection that people don't come to the Conservation Commission because they live on the lake. In the past couple of years, the past 2 years, especially with the Lake Association, we are trying to do an education campaign where we are telling everyone on the lake that we are going to be enforcing more, and we're now going to be accepting phone calls from neighbors saying, hey, someone down my neighbor a couple rows down, houses down, is doing something that is not within the Mendon bylaws. The difference is that 5-10 years ago, we didn't take those calls and nobody made them. We are now developing an awareness in the community that if you drop a dime and call Isabella, she will go out there wearing her, enforcement.
I figured it'd be done.
So we are slowly making steps towards regulating docks and beaches in a way that the Mendon Conservation Commission had not done in the past.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason why we're working with the Lake Nipmuc Association in order to say, we can't go on people's properties. So we need the awareness of the Lake Association to help us keep the lake the place it's supposed to be.
I understand that. And I think the question I'm asking is what happens when a new beach is built, forgetting about the existing beaches. I could go out tomorrow afternoon and build a beach. And unless somebody calls.
But you can't, because there's a 25-foot no disturb zone.
Well, the sandbox is in a 25-foot no disturb zone.
That's why they're in front of us.
Huh?
Well, I think my interpretation of the regulations with the Mendon bylaw is that we can't, with the 25-foot setback permit, new beaches. The current one before us is the pre-existing patio. Is
Correct.
that considered alteration, or is it already altered and therefore permittable? It's not new alteration. It's already, you're not filling buffer zones so long as it's not migrating into the lake. That, can they propose a way that is not going to migrate into the lake over time? And that's what I really think should be shown in the amendment, but there's no time or staff to go and force pre-existing beaches. And as I said, they might be before the bylaw, before the Wetland Protection Act, or they may be more than 20 years old. So it's not, he got it and now I don't get to. If someone wants to make a beach tomorrow and that's a new alteration, that's much more enforceable than something that may have been there for an unknown amount of time that we can't exactly trace. But to your point on the docks, any notice of intent that comes before us that has a dock, has a beach, has a shed on the shoreline, maybe they're replacing their septic, you do have to look at the property as a whole, because once you issue an order of conditions on that site, you are de facto permitting any current existing alterations. So over time, as you are reviewing more and more properties, you will be able to bring people into compliance, potentially with enhancement or restoration of certain areas. Because in this case, with the dock permit and this beach stand, the patio and the retaining wall weren't reviewed during the notice of intent process. So those are de facto permitted. There's also previously a septic repair on that property of 10, 20 years ago. So you can't even, every property is going to be different. We can't blanketly state all beach sand needs to be removed.
Remember with this property, we had just had them in here.
Well,
Peter, you got the last word.
because a dock, you have a privilege and there's a process and that you go to a state, and there's a beach. No, there is, in my mind, you have no right for a beach. If that means bringing in sand, you are allowed to disturb 10% of the bank. Disturb, yes, but not bringing in fill. So I have a problem just, and whether it's an existing beach, okay. But you're not going, I wouldn't give them the right to bring in fresh sand.
Right, and that was
refresh
my
it.
comment one of our last applicants is you have a drop off that goes to the water. I don't want to see that drop off disappear and a beach be there because that's changing the bank.
Yep.
So enough said.
Yep.
So we already did agenda number 10, unless land use committee, you said you didn't meet. We already did, NIPMA. And nothing is chair. How about the agent?
We do have the notice of intent for the Providence culvert for the next meeting, so that'll be a big kind of
This is just everyone.
hearing. The site walk for that is scheduled for 10 a.m. on September 24th. I'll send out an email
What day?
that week. That's a Wednesday at 10. That'll be with the site engineers at Providence. I do think an attempt to carpool would be beneficial. There's only really a couple of spots on that pull off. But we can talk about that kind of if people want to meet at town hall prior to the meeting.
I
Or
got
something, but
friends that live close by if we could park in. You know.
Yeah, your only update.
yeah, I think that's,
I have a question for the agent. The status of an RFQ for engaging in other,
I haven't had time.
okay, so I'll just keep asking every 2 weeks. RFQ to help us work on our regulations.
Actually, Mr. Chair, if I'm tempted to go back to the commission reorganization in that we've elected a chair and vice chair. The other things we should think about is who is the representative to the Lake Nipmuc Association, who is the CPA representation, and who is the land bank. So I don't know, do those get looked at sometime, or it's not once and for always, right? Or I'm not quite sure of that process.
Have you all typically voted on those or just whoever wants to do it?
Well, that was the way it kind of did, whoever wanted to do it.
Someone volunteered, we officially
Would
voted.
you like one of those positions?
I have one, but I'm thinking I would turn it over, and Mazar would be disappointed, but I think I would want Terrence to, if he's so interested to.
I'm the commission's liaison to the Community Preservation Committee, and I will continue doing it. I have no problem doing that.
So there is a question out there.
I think Peter ought to remain in that position, and I'd be happy to advise him anytime he needs any information.
Well, okay, maybe we can get you there next.
Would anybody else on the board like to be on land use?
If you're serious about wanting to step down, I will volunteer for it. but
No, I'm just wanting some fresh blood, so that's.
Okay, I got enough
You've got it.
positions in my signature, email signature.
And I'm happy being on the Lake Association Committee, so unless somebody else wants it, I mean, I'll continue filling that role.
So is there a motion that we need to make? No?
I think that was just a general question, Peter.
People are going to continue in their existing roles, so we don't need to say that they're
And
changing.
this would be where you would want to put that as the general welfare of.
But I would think that each year, I don't think it's once and done forever. There is something to be said for continuity, et cetera, but I think each year should be.
Yeah, we've done that the last 2 years.
I mean, is there any reason why you can't just step down?
No, I'm not saying I want to step down. I'm saying that for the good of the commission, that there should be a look every year as to, and it shouldn't just be one person owns a position for life.
We've now done so.
Okay. So good and welfare of the commission. Does anybody have anything else to add?
Yep, I got 2 points. First one, MACC conference coming up. People carpooling to that. Have you arranged with Isabella on training, budget stuff and classes and things?
I've spoken to a number of residents. Are you going to the conference?
No, I completed my training and I went, so I just wanted to make sure that other people were aware of that. And my second one is, previously we had a discussion about whether, about a protocol or regulation or policy and procedure for when we get a complaint, how that is investigated and how it will be triggering an enforcement order, and whether the enforcement order gets decided on by Isabella, our agent, because of the immediacy of the matter, whether it's something she should consult with the new chair, or whether it's something that the two of them or one of them feel that will wait until the next meeting. We're not going to talk about that now. My question is, do people think that that is something that we should ask to have put on a future agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So I will then request that that get added at some point. If next meeting is going to be very busy because Providence Culvert, maybe we have it on the agenda and then defer it to a following.
Didn't we discuss that already? Where we had said that Isabella has the authority to issue an enforcement order
She has that ability.
unless it can wait.
She has that ability under our bylaws, but the question that I believe Leah brought up is she's looking for a much more formal policy so that we have a way to remove the subjectivity out of the evaluation. And like I said, we're not going to talk about that now, but I got the feeling that that's what Leah was looking for. And then Bob is saying as well that he's interested in having that conversation.
Peter?
I got nothing to say about that. Sounds, we'll discuss it next meeting.
Or a future meeting.
So my take on that then is we're going to schedule a meeting, 2 meetings or so in the future to discuss this.
Yeah, Isabella wrote a little note for it.
Okay. Then-
Yeah, so for the culvert, it's a 200 and something page document. I would advise everyone to take a look at it before the site walk and keep an eye on it at the meeting.
I have the site plans in the office too, if you want to look at physical copies.
All right, cool thing.
And what do you think might be controversial about it? To me, I don't know. It's I don't know.
Ty and Bond did the preliminary work on that, didn't they? Or they did the test hole borings and.
It's a culvert that needs to be, so I don't know.
No, I was just
I
saying,
don't think it'll be-
familiar. I didn't say kind.
I think it should be straightforward. It meets all the design criteria for stream standards. I just don't know how many residents will come.
I want to see the road open, I think. Find out.
Do you want me to ask them? Okay.
I don't think that's appropriate now.
They would be glad to do such nice.
I don't know if they would it's a controversial project. I don't think we should park on private property. Park in the easement for the site visit.
Oh, that's cool. They're nice.
You can park there.
Any other
Park in the water.
concerns?
I
River runs over.
pictured Isabella about something today, but I haven't heard back from her, so maybe it's something.
So item number 13.
Before you leave the good of the commission, some of you may recall when I had my interview that Isabella asked me if I would have an interest in assisting in promoting better public understanding and appreciation of the town's conservation areas. And we sat down the other day and I proposed to her, and I will propose to you, that a small group of us, and I've asked our esteemed plant person over there to be a member of that. And Peter, I haven't had a chance to talk with you because you haven't been to church all this week.
Anything's done.
But I would appreciate it with your experience with the Watershed Association. And I would love to have Sarah as a geologist, but I think that constitutes a quorum of the commission. And I don't think we want to do that. But what we would do, if peers agreed to join, is to come back to the commission with kind of a scope of how we might proceed to increase public knowledge, public understanding, interpretation of those lands. And you would then be in a position with Isabella and other members of the commission, certainly, to see how that might be accomplished. And what I would do is bring you back a scope at a subsequent meeting for you to agree to or discuss or modify or do whatever. But I think we have enough experience from the park planning perspective, the ecological perspective, and how you can increase public understanding of the need for protection and appreciation through public use.
That sounds like a good idea.
So what would be on a future agenda? What would the agenda item be?
The agenda item would be to accept the scope of the planning process.
It's almost setting up a subcommittee, right? Or it's a temporary task force, or I don't know what you call it. It's a temporary subcommittee, or?
I don't know your process on suggesting it. You call it whatever you want. It could be a subcommittee of the commission or whatever the case may be. What we would bring back to the commission in agreement with the members of the subcommittee is how you get from here to there.
So it sounds like you have a proposal together and
To present it to
and
the
then-
commission, and then we would institute whatever that process suggests.
Okay.
I like that. I guess I would just throw out that we might include other members like this, the land use committee, someone like Ann Mazar. So whether we just keep it in Concom or we broaden it out.
Peter,
So
one of the elements of any scope that we would talk about is who else should be involved.
Good. Okay, thanks.
All right, so if anybody have anything else? Okay, so then items not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours of the meeting, anybody?
I sent Isabella a picture, but
Okay, I haven't gotten to everything today on my email, so I mean, I can't respond to a complaint within 24 hours. I don't think that's expected unless it's urgent.
an acknowledgement that it's there.
Showed it to me on the sidewalk. I said I got it in the text. But I mean, I can work tomorrow and look into it if that's what you want.
No, I just wanted to make sure it was on the radar.
Okay, then item agenda number 14.
I move we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Hi.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Passes.